All right, so the first thing you need to know if you're going to get started into turkey hunting is a little bit about turkeys themselves. So we're going to go through some things, and this is going to pertain mostly to age and gender differences between turkeys. So tell us a little bit about that then.
Yeah, so one of the important reasons why we want to go over this, and you might be thinking, well, why do I need to know that for hunting? Well, it's going to affect you in later ways that you're going to see throughout the course. I remember when I first got started, I had no clue what the word Jake even meant. So we're going to dive right into that just in case some of you are so new to turkey hunting that you don't know.
Yeah, and one of the first hunts that I had that was actually semi-successful, I had two birds that were on top of a hill, and I kept calling, they're gobbling, they're coming in. These birds came flying in, like running in. They came to a stop right in front of the beads of my gun, about 35 yards, but neither one of them was in strut, and I couldn't see a beard. I was so new to turkey hunting that I sat there staring, debating whether I should pull the trigger or not because I couldn't see a beard. Well, in hindsight now, after learning a lot about turkeys, obviously these birds were both toms, you know, and
Yeah.
if I had known a little bit more about gender and age and stuff like that, I could have squeezed the trigger and got my first turkey, and that would have been 2 years into it. So basically, there's two different names that you hear all the time. That's Jakes and Toms.
Correct, yeah.
You know, and a Jake is a younger Tom. It's a bird that's basically about a year old or less, and hasn't really fully developed, and you can tell right away because of a few things, like for example spurs.
Yeah, so on the backs of their legs here, here's what's known as the spur, like he said. So you can see this one's really small. This is a young bird. This is a Jake right here.
Yeah, and the spurs are used for fighting, basically. I mean, it's the main,
Defense, yeah, keeping off prey and things like that.
yeah, exactly. So as they get older, the spur continues to grow, and then once they hit 2, 3, 4 years and older, then it gets pretty long, and you can see the difference there between the two. So this would be a Jake, this would be a Tom. Now, in addition to spur length, another thing that's different would be the beard length.
Yeah, absolutely. So the beard is what comes out of the front of the chest, and typically that's how you can, for the most part, differentiate the males from the females, but not always. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But for the most part, a young Jake, they'll have anywhere from like a 2 to 4 to 5 inch beard for the most part. So that's how you can tell if you're using binoculars looking across the field and they don't have their fan up, they're not strutting, and you can see that beard. That beard length is a good indicator if you're new to looking at turkeys that is probably a young bird.
Yeah, and on a Tom, you're typically looking somewhere in the neighborhood of like 8 to 12 inches on the beard length. Now, another big thing that you can tell is on the fan of a turkey.
Yeah.
You know, a male turkey, they'll go into strut, and when they do, they fan their tail out. And you'll notice on Toms, it'll be a complete smooth full fan, just like you see on the birds back here, completely round all the way around. Jakes are going to have actually like a stair-stepped fan because some of their feathers have not actually grown out all the way. So that's how you can tell visually the difference between a younger Tom or a younger bird and an older bird,
right,
is by those characteristics. Now, difference between male and female.
Yep. So we were talking earlier about the beard in different situations and how it's typically found on males, but there are rare cases that those beards are on hens. So we're going to show you a real cool clip of a hen that had a beard that we took as well.
Yeah, that's not a beard. I don't know what it is. That's a beard.
Neck.
Good job, man.
The old neck trick. Oh, my childhood dream to kill a bearded hen. I just succeeded. Bucket list done.
Yeah, so that's what a bearded hen looks like. Now, one thing that you'll notice when you're watching that video is she was a lot smaller than, other birds would be. Like typically a Jake, you're talking, is going to be anywhere from, 14 to 16 pounds or something like that. And a Tom is going to weigh somewhere between like 17, 18 pounds all the way up to 25 pounds,
Yeah,
and sometimes even bigger than that in extremely rare cases. A hen is going to be extremely less. If you shoot a hen, you pick her up, you're going to notice right away the difference.
Yeah.
mostly feathers there. But another difference too is in the look, the difference of the look between the head. You know, on a tom, that head is going to be a lot more skin, less feathers, whereas on the hen, you notice that those feathers come up quite a bit higher on there too. And you'll see variations in color too. Tom goes into strut, his face is going to go from like a light pink all the way to, you know, reds, blues, and whites in it, whereas a hen typically stays more in that kind of bluish, fleshy kind of color. Now, as far as harvesting a bird, typically almost all states want you to harvest male birds. They want you to harvest toms or jakes, and whether you're harvesting a jake or a tom is really just a personal preference. You know, a lot of people for their first turkey, they don't really care what it is. And then some people, as they get into it more, they'll shoot toms only because they're looking for a bigger bird, more mature bird, and some of those characteristics with the bigger spurs and beard. But as far as, you know, shooting a hen, certain states allow you to do that. How's that work?
Yeah, so like he was saying, most of the time, and this course is focused primarily on spring turkey hunting, and I don't know of any state out there that doesn't want you to shoot a bearded only bird, right? So, but in most states, you're going to have to check with your state regulations. In most states, that consists of a tom, jake, or a bearded hen. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a male bird. It can be a female bird if it has a beard.
Yeah. So you definitely want to make sure and check your state regulations for the state that you're going to be hunting and verify that first. But if it is a bearded hen, most states do allow you to shoot that if you choose to. You'd want to make a decision based on population in the area because, you know, if you're shooting bearded hens, that's one less hen to reproduce and create more turkeys to grow the population in your area. You know, one last thing too would be fall seasons. Most states that have fall seasons, they do allow you to shoot a hen in the fall regardless of whether it has a beard or not. Again, check your state regulations and make that decision based on how you feel it'll affect the population of turkeys in your area.